didn't fall? Inconceivable. You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Where am I?
The pit of despair. Don't even think.
Don't even think about trying to escape.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Welcome back, moviegoers, to another edition of Going to the Movies. Today we are in England. We're in the Peak District right now for a bunch of Princess Bride locations. We're gonna go to Ireland for one as well, and some more closer to London. This is a 4-quadrant movie if I have ever seen one. Everybody loves it, doesn't matter what generation you're from. So I hope you're ready to see some amazing locations. All right guys, so here is the opening shot of the movie. Well, it's not actually the opening shot, it's the opening shot of the book part after Peter Falk starts reading to his grandson, played by Fred Savage. An incredible location to come and visit when you think about the scenes that were filmed here and how it draws you in right from the beginning of the movie. I want to show you the two buildings. Now, that one right there, the wooden beams match the same exact spot where that area was in the movie's shot. It could be the same structure, it probably isn't. They maybe rebuilt it. Look at that though, that is the outer shell of her home. You can see how the windows match, the stones match. There's no roof there and there's a bunch of overgrowth on the inside of it, but incredible to see. Now we look at this shot and you can see from this angle that they took that cottage that was there to the left down. I don't know if that was added for production, but it's totally possible. And then I'm using this to match it up, even though we don't know if that's the same one or not. All right, 1987 is when The Princess Bride came out, and you can see the age at this particular location. And this corner right here is where they took the iconic shot of Wesley and Buttercup looking at each other in the eyes, holding hands. And the way we were able to pinpoint exactly which way the camera was facing, because the backdrop looks a little bit different now, is you match up the rocks. We love matching up rocks. Now, there were some at the top here. They're not there anymore. This one with the notch, just at the bottom left corner, that one is the same. You can see it in the photo, and you keep going down and they continue to be the same. Now I'm gonna show you back there, because before these trees were grown up, it looks exactly the same as the backdrop in the movie shot. So you gotta walk past quite a few trees to get here and see the background, what it would have looked like, and this is what we see behind them. So it's safe to say none of the trees were here. The path wasn't quite here like this, but yeah, how the land slopes from the top right to the bottom left, and then you have that line of trees there in the middle. Humperdinck's castle actually isn't a castle at all. It's an English country house called Haddon Hall, and it's one of the best preserved medieval homes standing today. It's located in Bakewell, Derbyshire, and guess what? I forgot to check their tour schedule. It turns out they weren't going to open until the day after our flight home. Their tour season started later this year because Jude Law and Alicia Vikander were shooting a movie there. I was determined though to recreate a particular shot of Buttercup riding out of the castle, so I'd need to sneak through a couple of fields. First, I did some recon with the drone. The coast was clear, so I walked up to the spot and I got the shot, but it came out pretty rough. That's because I didn't have use of my gimbal because my camera was stolen the day before in London and the gimbal plate was attached. The memory card was also inside, and this was actually my second time sneaking back here to match this up with the new camera. Trust me, the gimbal version was much better. I ducked under some trees to tell the story when I started to get a bunch of messages from my friend and fellow filming location hunter, Justin. You'll hear more about him later, but long story short, he got in contact with the Haddon Hall people. He told them about how far I'd traveled and my camera being stolen, and somehow convinced them to let me on the property. The lady told me, "We have to hurry before the Lord and Lady see you here." So we matched up the tower here. You can see where they built a portion for the movie to make it more convincing as a castle. And we also got this great shot of Buttercup as she comes through the archway. Massive, massive thanks to Justin for doing that. He is by far my favorite Instagram account for filming locations, so make sure to give him a follow at Movie Location Hunter. He does some epic ones like Gladiator, Braveheart, all sorts of really cool spots. And also check out his website linked in the description below. Also, huge thank you to the staff at Haddon Hall for sneaking us on, and another huge thank you to the London Camera Exchange for helping me to put together a setup that allowed us to salvage some videos out of our European trip after the great camera thievery of 2022. Alright guys, now we're at Hever Castle on the lake. Here is where they filmed the boat going out into the lake. Now most of the scenes where the eels and stuff were, that was in the studio, but there's the shot where they take off. So we're gonna go find that. But they close really soon, so we gotta run. So I'm going to link a blog down in the description below. It was very helpful. It was a guy who went out and found a lot of the Princess Bride spots. It is princessbridelocations.blogspot.com. And one of the mysteries that he solved was the fact that they did not shoot at Black Park Lake. So if you search up Princess Bride locations, a lot of the pages you find will reference Black Park Lake as where they sailed off after kidnapping Buttercup, but it was actually here on the grounds of Hever Castle. He said that. Now we compared the shots, they look exactly the same. Look here at the tall trees, there are two kind of together there, just slightly spaced apart, and then the bigger one here, and then the tree hanging down, as well as obviously the lake down at the bottom. If that is not enough for you, because I know it's tough for natural landscapes like this, you could say, well, that's any old lake you could go to and point to the left and say that's where it was. I have noticed in hunting, filming locations that natural landscapes are different in every spot, and they usually are easier to find than you would think. But Hever Castle posted a tweet in 2020 talking about the history of the castle. Carrie Elwes responded, "I'm very fond of the place, shot there 2 years in a row for Lady Jane and Princess Bride." Well, Dr. Owen Emerson, who works here at the castle, tweeted in that same thread and said, "We had enormous fun putting together an exhibition of the films shot at Hever Castle last year, and both Lady Jane and the Princess Bride featured heavily, and the one shot from Princess Bride is this exact shot here." So I believe that that is enough confirmation, other than the fact that we are looking at a spot that looks exactly the same, that they shot the scenes here. Here's another shot, and I believe the only thing we can really match up is if we assume those two taller trees are the ones in the screenshot. Less leaves on them when they filmed the shot. The dock would have been here, pointing out in this direction. You know, sometimes you gotta rush through locations and you forget to soak it in. And luckily with the videos, we get to soak it in later. But it's always nice when you can stop and take a chill. However, we got a long way to go for the next stop. Some cliffs, next stop Ireland. So when you first get to the cliffs, they have this visitor center, this welcome center. There's an exhibition all about the wildlife, the natural beauty of the area, some of the features. Great place to start. Well, everybody else is doing it. Insanely cold, insanely wet, and insanely cliffy here at the Cliffs of Insanity, aka the Cliffs of Moher. As far as I know, the only thing shot in Ireland for Princess Bride. And the cliffs are right here, the ones from the movie. Let's go point them out. Alright guys, so I finally found this one from the background. So you see the slanted part of the rock and the grass patch here? That's the cliff behind the cliff that they're climbing, which is, I believe, this one. Like 99% certain. You could get a pretty good vantage point if you went out to here, but I'm just not doing it this time, guys. Your thoughts? All right guys, so this parking lot right here is a great one to hit 2 spots. We went up here earlier to Buttercup's farm up the public footpath, and then if you walk around and go this way and to the right, you'll get up to what's called Robin Hood's Stride, and that is where we will see the scene for when he fights Andre the Giant. It's not too bad of a walk. Come up here to all these rocks. It's pretty beautiful up here, and right here is where Wesley came up, the pathway, and then his fight with Andre the Giant happened in these rocks here. So I thought this was a good place to stop and talk about Justin, who is a fellow film location hunter. He's been a huge help on my European trip. He lives here in England. Such a blessing to have him as a friend on this crazy journey that we've had, especially after all the mess that's happened. But we've noticed something interesting, that we have a very similar process when we hunt locations.
Yeah, I think we met because I saw your videos, and I was really impressed with the content and the fact that I felt you took me on the journey, and that's how we first met. And then I think it was January, you said you're coming to the UK, and didn't think anything of it. We thought maybe meet up, have a coffee and so on, but we ended up doing Princess Bride locations together because it was on my list. I hadn't done it before, and when we got here, it was just really interesting how we are both looking at our phones, and we're both looking at the same screenshot, standing next to each other, looking at the screen and so on. The equipment was similar. Everything that we would do was really, really similar. But the best part of it, especially when you're at locations like this, is finding that reference point. And once you've got it, everything else starts to link together. That's part of the fun, the joy of this. And then, like I said, you just get that one bit and then it's just easy to go. But this is the first time I've actually done it with somebody else, and that's been really enjoyable. And I think that this is another benefit of the location hunting, because you get to meet other people. And yeah, got to the locations and meet a great guy.
This great shot is when Humperdinck arrives as he's trailing the party. Now we know Andre the Giant was wearing a brace for a lot of the movie, especially when he had to carry people. So he was not as strong as he appeared at the time. Now look at this rock. It doesn't quite match the way it did in the movie. These gashes are a little bit different. There's also a carving when the movie was filmed. It says 1970 JT. So we were looking at the rock from the movie and it looks a little bit different. We think there were probably 2 main reasons for that. One, to cover up the carving, but also to provide some padding for Cary Elwes as he was slammed into the back of this. We now enter what is known as Lathkill Dale, and this is where they filmed the Battle of Wits between the Sicilian and Wesley. We've got to walk a little bit of a distance and up some hill to get to the spot. This map shows the route we took to get from the car park to the spot from Princess Bride. A ton of natural beauty to take in at Lathkill Dale. And here it is, Battle of Wits. First, I want to show you this view, which isn't a matchup. It's hard to do from here because of the tree growth, but you can still see those rocks embedded into the hillside, just like what's visible in the background of the scene. Now, speaking of the trees, this double tree is visible behind Wallace Shawn, but again, much smaller than it was 35 years ago, and difficult to see through the leaves of that tree, but the tree just to the right is still there as well. This smaller tree right in front of me seems to be new, and around the tree, you can see that the rock wall behind them still remains. Looking back the other way, I didn't try to do any exact matches here because the tree is halfway fallen over, but that big old one is where Wesley arrives from, as well as Humperdinck and his horsemen later. And looking even farther into the distance, this is something Justin pointed out. You can see a fence line visible now and then. We were a little confused about whether or not that big old tree was the correct one we were looking for until noticing this shot, which shows the background and the tree. And finally, it's not perfect, but here is your money shot. Still in the Peak District National Park, we are at a big rock formation, and this is where they cross the moors. It's a stunning area. It's gorgeous. I'm going to show you the exact matchup shots. This is after Wesley has taken Buttercup, and it's just the 2 of them, and it's before they get in the fight where she pushes him down the hill. So let's go and match them up. So here's a shot we get when Wesley and Buttercup run across the moors. That big rock back there. That rock formation seen in the background is called Higger Tor, and you kind of have to climb down it to get to where we're standing, which is called Carl Wark. Another incredible landscape but only shown for a short time in the film, so we won't spend a bunch of time here either. Let's go ahead and head to Cave Dale. So you'd never realize it from watching the movie, but the scene in Cave Dale is just right above this quaint little fairy tale English town. It is such a nice walk through here. If you come visit, make sure to find a parking spot on the other side of town and walk through for some amazing little views and things to see, little shops and stuff like that. But as we walk through between these two buildings, we will make it into Cave Dale. This little sheep has lost its mother. Oh look. So I'm standing on the side of the hill. I wanted to do a quick Cave Dale rundown because they mixed some things up here and I wanted to explain it without being too confusing. So this smaller hill in the foreground, the top of that is where Wesley and Buttercup were sitting. This is where they had their argument. You probably recognize the ridge line already. That's where the guys came down on horseback, Humperdinck and his men. Now when she pushes him down, it's not this hill that he tumbles down, followed by Buttercup. It's actually about where I'm standing. So you see that rock formation in the background. And then they did some camera trickery. When they land at the bottom, they're actually over there and the camera is facing back this way. When they get up, you see this rock formation in the background because they're now standing about here. And then when they run off into the forest, which was done with a matte painting. So it actually goes back further than it looks in the movie. And they run off to see the rodents of unusual size. All right, now that you know how they mixed up everything at this spot, let's quickly go through the shots from the camera's perspective. Here's the spot where Wesley and Buttercup rest, looking back towards the north side of Cave Dale. If you turn to the right, you'll see where Wesley sat against the log. The limestone in the hillside helps as a reference here. A little bit more to the right, and you can see at the ridge line where Humperdinck and his men ride in on horseback. The left side, you can still see the tree, and then you can see a little bit of a rock wall peeking over on the right. All of it's still there. Next shot's the hill they tumble down. Look how steep that is. I'm just kidding. They actually tilted the camera here to make it look worse than it really is. Here's the actual gradient. And here's the landing point. Again, this is actually on the other side of the valley looking in the reverse direction. The hill they tumbled down was back up and around the rocks that you're seeing on the right. If we keep the camera pointing in the same direction as this shot, but we walk through the rocks back to where the tumbling was filmed, you can match this one where they stand up. Then turn back around and you have the shot of them running away from Humperdinck's party. And here we've got some more Hollywood magic. You can see castle ruins up on the ridge and the valley continuing down. But in the movie, that's covered with a matte painting of the fire swamp. So watch as I place that over. And then here is the full shot. The fire swamp scenes were done at Shepperton Studios. We can't go there, but we'll head to some other woods for the next stop. This is Burnham Beaches. This is where they filmed all the wood scenes, most of the scenes that happen in the woods. Pit of Despair, when they capture Wesley and Buttercup finally. We are not going to be able to match up exactly where everything was because this is a big park and we just don't have time. There's daylight out here, but it's actually after 9 p.m. and we are not only running out of daylight, we're running out of days because my camera got stolen. So I'm going to show you some things that are similar and then we will leave this spot for you to come out and pinpoint on your own. There is an area where you can find these trees or the branches distinctly bend upward. This is another one. But a lot of those showed up in the forest scenes that were filmed here at Burnham Beaches. So this could be one of the areas. I don't want to walk around too close to these trees just because there's a couple of cows here. I don't want to disturb them. Look, she's already getting annoyed. This particular tree is giving off some Pit of Despair energy, but I know they added that one for the movie with the door and everything. But look at that. Oh my gosh, look at this tree. This tree is over 800 years old. It has survived through the reigns of 35 kings and queens of England. Obviously, that is why they have fenced it in. It's called Druid's Oak. not in the movie, but sometimes you get a feature of an area that you have got to show.
Marriage.
Say that again.
Marriage.
We were married at one time. We still are. I meant that we are married like the verb, you know, like we were joined together in holy matrimony. Not here, but this is the church where they had Humperdinck and Buttercup's attempted wedding, and you had the speech impediment priest at the front. Now, I'm really excited to show you this location because it was very difficult to find. It's in a small village called Ockham, which is nothing, or not anywhere near any of the other Princess Bride locations. And now we have some sort of aircraft going over. Notice that there are 7 stained glass windows here. That is pretty unique for churches in England. Typically you're going to see 3 or 5, so that made it a little bit easier to reverse image search, and I will show you that the stained glass windows do match. All the columns match when they're up on the altar and looking in the opposite direction. And this is one of the most famous scenes in Princess Bride. You gotta love it. Well, behind me is Penshurst Place. This is a home about 30 to 40 minutes south of London. A lord and lady live here, but you can tour it all year round, parts of the house. And the first room that you will see, if you take the house tour, is the Baron's Hall. And that is where they filmed the scene between Inigo Montoya and Count Rugen, when Inigo finally gets his revenge for Count Rugen killing his father. And man, dad stuff just gets me. This is my favorite scene in the movie. I have a really close relationship with my dad. I don't know what I would do without him. Every time Inigo Montoya says, "My name's Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die," it just hits me. You know, like the first couple times it's kind of funny. Count Rugen says, "Stop saying that." And that's pretty funny. But the more and more he says it, you start to feel the pain. And I think Mandy Patinkin does such a great job with that performance. Nothing was filmed out here. The exteriors were not used. But again, the Baron's Hall was used. I'll show you some stuff there. The stairwell where he comes down, and everywhere else that the sword fight happened. And I believe this is the only area where you can take photos inside of the house. At least that's what I was told. We'll see how it turns out. All right, guys, well, that is the final stop for Princess Bride locations. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it because this was a really tough video to make. Not because the locations were hard to get to, but because our camera got stolen and that memory card that was in the camera had all of our Princess Bride footage on it. I had to buy another camera on an emergency credit card. We drove all the way back up. So there was a bunch of videos we didn't get to make, but I knew that Princess Bride had to be done because I thought you guys would enjoy it the most, and I enjoyed going to these spots a whole lot, especially with our new friends Jane and Justin. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to leave a comment if you liked these spots, if you're going on the adventures yourself. And I'm going to start a Patreon. So if you sign up for Patreon, I will give you access to our maps. They will take you to every movie that we do, maybe even some that we don't do. I will also put outtakes on there, which are not, you know, like bloopers. They're more like the Winnebago Man, but you might find it funny. And anything else extra I can think of, we're going to put up there. There's no way we can keep up with making these epic filming locations without a little bit of help. So we are starting the Patreon. If you feel compelled, don't feel like you have to, obviously, then please sign up and we will make it worth your while. Sorry that this has been such a long outro. If you'd like to watch another filming locations video, click here. If you'd like to see a playlist of all of our videos, if you want to binge watch, that is here, and we will see you in the next video.